Thank you so much for joining Dental Marketing Theory, a podcast by Gary Bird. In today's episode, our guest is Darin Acopan, the EVP and partner of the Dentist Entrepreneur Organization. We talk about the evolution of the dental space from being doctor-centric to patient-centric, black box thinking, and the importance of realizing you are not alone, and that baselining your experience against someone else's is a great way to grow your practice. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment, as all of those things really help our podcast and get the word out. Hope you enjoy today's show.
All right, Darren, we are live. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me, Gary. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited. So I'm just going to break the ice really easily. I know you're a podcast guy. What are some of the podcasts you've been listening to lately that you've been enjoying?
I'm a huge fan since the beginning of Joe Rogan's podcast. But for those of you that are investor nuts out there, there's one called We Study Billionaires. Highly recommend it.
We Study Billionaires.
We Study Billionaires. And I'm going to plug them a little bit later, but my key opinion leader in the business world, his name's Naval Ravikant. For those of you that don't know him, he's probably the most successful early stage tech investor that you've never heard of. So he has his own podcast called the Naval Ravikant Podcast.
Okay, so we're going to get the links to that and we're going to share those. I'm super fascinated with both of those right away. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing those. And I definitely want to hear more about those as we go through the show today. Well, one of the things that we've been doing, Darren, with this show, and I think that it's kind of resonated with folks in the industry, is we walk through the origin story of how people got into dental. And I think yours is pretty fun and unique. So would you mind sharing that with us today?
Yeah, and I'll actually tie it into the origin story of the Dentist Entrepreneur Organization group itself. So the DEO has been around for a little over 30 years. It was actually founded by a periodontist named Dr. Mark Cooper. Mm-hmm. And so Mark, 30 years ago, he was at a point in his career where he was just very interested in groups in multiple locations. Which
at the time, that was like...
At the time was... Marketing just became legal, right?
Yeah.
Let's put that in perspective. Prior to that, the dental boards would go out and measure the letters on your shingle, and if it was too big, they'd shut you down. So to give you all in the audience some perspective of how things were back then, that's how it was. And so Mark really was interested in groups, but at the time, no one was talking about them. And so what he did was pretty forward-looking. He consulted for medical groups in his area. And the reason he did that is, if you recall, 30 years ago was when medical consolidated to managed care. And so what he did is, from a dentist perspective, he basically created the playbook, if you will, of how to do this, and ended up coaching other dentists on how to do it, and became so popular, he ended up selling his perio practice and became a full-time coach.
Wow.
And for 25 years, he really ran it on his own. And then he turned age 70 and realized, I need an exit strategy. And this is not a dental practice. You know, what the exit strategy really is, who can buy me out or at least partner up with me. So he decided to bring on a couple of partners. So he first reached out to our CEO, Jake Poole. Mm-hmm. So a lot of you in the dental space know Jake. Jake actually co-founded one of the first marketing agencies that you know of, Gary, called Fire Gang Dental Marketing.
That's actually where I met Jake, was Fire Gang. I met him at an ADA event.
Yes.
Man, probably 2013, something like that.
Yeah. And so he and his co-founder, Ghost, wrote a book. Mark Cooper helped promote it and really got to know Jake really well, and offered him an opportunity to partner up with him and be his full-time CEO. So Jake exited Fire Gang, came on to, at the time, it wasn't called DEO. It was called the Mastery Company. That was Mark Cooper's company. And then about 5 months into it, realized Mark was doing a lot. He was authoring books. He was running events. He was coaching clients, and Jake needed help on the business development side. So he reached out to me asking me if I'd want to be the third partner and to buy in. And so I came on board, and this ties into my origin story. My background prior to DEO was, I was at a DSO consultancy called Stratus Dental Group. They're no longer in business, but that's how I made my foray into the space. And then prior to that, I worked for a small company called Bowflex. Before Peloton, there was this other exercise machine sold direct to consumer called the Bowflex.
Yes, Chuck Norris.
All those infomercials. Well, that was Total Gym. But they were a competitor, but in the same vein. And so helped scale Bowflex from 50 million to 400 million before I exited and got recruited into dental directly. And so as an outsider, what I did, Gary, is I didn't know anything about dental, right? I didn't even know what a pro fee was back then. And so the first conference I went to was actually the Southern California CDA, and said, this is a sea full of vendors. I get it, but yet it's not the business side of things. I want to go learn about the groups. And so my very first DSO conference was actually thanks to Brian Kaleo and the team at Dykema.
Yeah.
I went out to one of their events in Dallas and then said, this is it. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to specialize in. And I went to about 12 to 13 DSO conferences a year for 4 years straight.
Wow.
And that's how I got to know everybody.
That's awesome. So how was that transition moving from the non-dental into the dental? What kind of things did you have to learn, and what kind of things did you have to forget? And keeping in mind, what year was that again?
My goodness, this must have been about, seven-ish years ago.
So the industry is totally different, right? It's transformed a lot in the last 7 years. So talk a little bit about that transition from going from a scaling gym company and jumping into dental and going to these conferences.
At the end of the day, the recipe for success is the same. Any industry you go into, there is a normal distribution of talent. And you just have to find who are the outliers on that higher echelon. And typically they go to the same conferences, they're part of the same clubs. And if you can get your way into those clubs, you become the average of the people you spend the most time around. So that's what I did, right? It's a lot easier now because there's less DSO conferences post-COVID than pre-COVID. And so we make it really easy for all of you trying to break into the industry, especially as non-dentists like myself and Gary. It's really easy now to know where you should go and where you should spend your marketing dollars to get in front of the right audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that yesterday when we were talking a little bit about how COVID has impacted the industry so heavily. And I loved your perspective on that. Would you mind sharing how COVID hit you guys? I know it has a negative undertone to it, right? COVID's definitely hurt a lot of people, but there was also some positives that came out of it. Would you mind sharing those with the group today?
Yeah, obviously would never wish another pandemic on any of us. It did, however, present a silver lining, which was it caused all of us that run businesses, whether we're vendors or we run dental practices, to take pause and really think about what you want, right? Prior to that, you were just grinding it out, busy. I want all my columns booked. You know how it goes. And COVID with shelter in place forced a lot of us to take pause and figure out, well, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Do I have the right people on the right bus in the right seats? And essentially what's unfortunate is I've seen us revert back to being busy. Mm-hmm. And it's really important to carve out that free space, no matter how busy your schedule is, to really think about what direction you're going in, because the direction you go is more important than how fast you go. And I see a lot of people going fast in the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you personally carve out space for that, like creative or visionary time that you need?
That's a great question. So you and I and everyone else has always heard, I don't have time. That's BS. There's no such thing as no time. It's just not a priority.
Yes.
So you have to learn how to prioritize. Hey, you want to get in better shape? Well, guess what? You probably have to wake up early to get it done, or you have to do it after hours. But you can get it done because other people are.
Yeah.
And we all have the same hours in the day, last time I checked. So it's really block scheduling. I'm a big proponent of block scheduling and sticking to that schedule. Yes, things shift. You get an emergency patient if you're a dentist. Yeah, you're going to see them, right? But at the end of the day, 90% of my schedule remains pretty static. Like, these are the non-negotiables. Got to get the workout done and have the morning ritual. We all do. And then, what is the single best thing that I could accomplish this week that takes care of 80% of the issues, right? That Pareto principle, that 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So that's really how I live my life. And then once that gets done, normally by Tuesday, I got what I needed to get done, and everything from Wednesday to Friday is gravy.
That's awesome. Yeah. I live by block scheduling as well. I block schedule everything: working out, the morning routine, afternoon, family stuff, like everything. If it doesn't get on my calendar in my mind, it's not going to get done. One thing that I've been playing around with, because I was one of those people that was like pack schedule, wall to wall, 30-minute meetings. How many meetings? Get 17 meetings in a day, and it's just like you kind of get on a treadmill and you get stuck. One of the things that's really helped me to think about the future is blocking off days or blocking off sections of days to think, and I know that sounds weird, right? When you're busy, we got to get stuff done. But also there's things that aren't getting done that you have to think about in the future. And so I've been block scheduling those off, and that's been really, really helpful to me. One of the other things that I've noticed that the COVID kind of caused, and I know you've seen it as well, I can tell you guys are paying attention to it because of the events and the way you're framing your content, is pre-pandemic, the dental industry, most of the labor issues were, how am I going to sort through all these Indeed applications, right? Mm-hmm. Like I need a hygienist and 100 people applied. Post pandemic, it's, you know what? I put up a job and no one's responding to it. I haven't had one applicant come through. What's some of your thoughts around recruiting and retention that you're seeing? This is still a hot topic. It's still an issue. How are you guys tackling that? And what do you guys, any takeaways that people can execute on?
Yeah, one of our partners, Dr. Eric Roman, who works with Josie Sewell, right? He says it best. He said the analogy he uses is fishing. So what do most of us do when we need an applicant or we need to fill a position? We hire opportunistically, and only then do you cast your line in the water. The really great groups, quite frankly, solos, groups, and large DSOs recruit year round. Mm-hmm. Do you think Heartland just recruits when they need an associate? No, they are on every single campus recruiting heavily. It's a full contact sport, just like the Division I football recruiting. And that's what you have to do. Not only that, what is your presence like? If you're trying to recruit me as, say, someone, the head of operations, and I see your job post on whatever platform I see it on, what's the first thing I'm going to do? Probably going to go to your website.
Yeah.
And if it has stock imagery, if I don't see the team members, you don't have a careers tab, I'm probably not going to take you too seriously, or you're going to be a second or third tier priority to me versus someone else that does. If you don't give me a tour of what it looks and feels like, what a day in the life is like, if it's not lifestyle based, like you see a lot of advertisements that are very successful, has almost nothing to do with the product. It's really about how this improves your life, right? Or fills in a gap in your life. And so that's really what some of the best companies are doing that we see, the ones that we work with, and quite frankly, even the ones that we don't work with. That's the differentiating factor.
What percentage, and this is something I'm super passionate about because it's probably the biggest hole that I see in dental right now for the growth that everybody wants to experience. What's the percentage of dentists or organizations that have some kind of employer brand, meaning they've thought through, this is what it looks like to work for us, and they've built something digitally, and they have some kind of plan that they're able to execute? It's not just a dental site that you're going to.
Unless you have access to a group like ours or someone else's, it probably isn't even top of mind, right? You don't think through not only your target avatar of who you're trying to recruit as a patient, but more importantly, as a team member, as an employee. Like, what makes you different in recruiting an associate dentist versus every other company there in California, for example, right? So I would say in the DEO, that's one of the first fundamental things we teach to our members. But outside of the DEO, I would say probably 10%, if I'm being very generous.
You're 100% right. Even with some of the larger groups, we're seeing they don't have a website to actually use for recruiting and things like that. And the cool part about that, Darren, from my perspective, is that means you can move really fast and you can fix those things and you can actually go compete. And you're not going to have somebody, in some other areas, in other markets, you go try to start a tech company and compete against Google, Apple, and Tesla. Even if you do everything correctly, you're competing against pretty big budgets. Right now in the dental space, we're competing for talent, but you're not just competing against dentists anymore. You're competing against marketing companies. You're competing against vendors. You're competing against, all these different companies that are just looking for people to come and work from home. So getting that squared away is huge. And there's still time, like you can do it, because 90% of dentists aren't doing it. And that's a great, I'm 100% with you on that number. I would say sub 10% would be somewhere in that ballpark. One of the things that you also touched on that is the retention side. You mentioned how important culture is, and I know DEO, it's like every event is centered around culture because it really comes down to that. What are your thoughts about retention from the dental industry? Where do you see the dental industry going in that area?
You know, how many dental groups do you know of where the employees don't even have dental benefits?
Yep.
So it really comes down to, if you're not taking into consideration the personal and professional and financial goals of your team, that's a start, right? Figuring out who they are on an individualized basis. And if it's not you, if you're the dentist and you're doing both the business admin and the clinical, you probably have a right-hand person or a core group that reports to you on a regular cadence. Your job is to figure out what their personal, professional, financial goals are and help them align those goals with the goals of the business. And then you teach them how to do that for the people that report to them, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, most people aren't going to leave, contrary to popular belief, for an extra $1 or $2 more an hour. But what is my career path? Do you care about me as an individual? You know, I might have tuition reimbursement that's more important to me than making more money. I might want a 4-day work week versus a 5-day. Just thinking outside of the box. You're all entrepreneurs out there. You can make it any which way you want, right? Especially if you're under 50 employees and you don't have those HR regulations that kick in at that level.
100%.
You can really make this anything you want. So really, you have the unfair plane advantage compared to the larger organizations that have to abide by certain HR rules and standards.
Yeah, I love that. I was working with a dentist, and they couldn't hire hygienists. Like, there just wasn't enough of them, and they'd put up all the ads, and they were competing against tons of other people, and there was very few hygienists. And we tried going top dollar, that didn't work. We tried, offering different incentives and bonuses, that didn't work. And it wasn't until we kind of stopped and said, okay, what do they actually want? And it was like, well, they want flexibility. So then we started saying, okay, we can do part-time positions, and we can do flexible schedules, flex schedules, where you kind of can pick your schedule in advance. And you know what? That means we're going to have to hire twice as many hygienists, but we can make this work. Once we started doing that, all of a sudden the floodgates open. So it's just rethinking what do people want and give it to them. And it really opens up the opportunity. And again, just a simple thing like benefits, that's huge. You're competing against people who are offering them benefits. So I love that thought process. I know one of the things that you do, Darren, at the DEO, you get to interview a lot of organizations, and you get to talk through what they're doing, what they're not doing, where their struggles are, where their strengths are. What are some of the things that you work through that people would be surprised to hear that everybody's kind of going through?
Yeah, it's the hiring for sure. The talent acquisition is a challenge for everyone, right? That should not be a surprise to anyone. None of us thought we'd have to compete with McDonald's paying $500 sign-on bonuses, and in New York they're paying up to $30 an hour starting. That's just the reality. So how do you mitigate that risk? That's number one. Well, the reality is, I don't care if you join DEO or another group, you're not going to be able to collectively make the mistakes of a group of other owners that are at your level and above. So whether it's DEO, there's other organizations out there, I highly encourage you to seek them out and find the right fit for you. Like, you got to find your tribe, because you're not going to be alive long enough or in your career long enough to make the collective mistakes that everyone else has made, and success leaves clues. So that's number one, right? You need to baseline your performance against someone, and oftentimes owners are on their own island and they feel like they're making the decisions in a vacuum. And that's a terrible feeling to have, especially coming off of a year like 2020.
Yeah.
So that's number one, is you got to find your tribe. And that's counterintuitive, because dentistry is very much, especially if you go into certain specialties, it's like, I'm the best. No one's better than me. Look at what I can do. And I don't blame you. That's just what is bred from dental school on forward, right? But it really comes down to, okay, everyone's coming to me as the leader for answers, but where do I go as the leader for my answers? And that's why we have events like the summit. That's why we have the mastermind group, is because I don't know all the answers, and I've been doing this for a pretty long time, respectively. And I'm always learning something new, even from members that are brand new into the organization. So that really is the secret, is you become the average of the people that you spend the most time around, like Jim Rohn quoted.
Yeah, and I was listening to one of the other podcasts that you did, and kind of framing some of these thoughts. And I love the way that you work through and frame things mentally, makes it easier to apply them. But one of them was about failing forward, and you talked about the black box thinking,
Yes.
the desire for perfection, right? And I know that's big, right? Like that's when you get in, especially into dentistry.
It is.
That's something that people want to focus on. Walk me through some of the mindsets that you learned from that black box thinking.
You know, it really is. It comes from Silicon Valley and the tech world, right? It's building a minimum viable product and failing fast and failing forward, but failing cheap so that you're not so far invested with sunk costs that you implode. And I think in dental, that's almost counterintuitive, where you're all learning how to do procedures beginning, middle, and end, and you're doing microsurgeries, and the margins and the perfection aspect and element of what you all do and the engineering mindset that you all have, you almost feel like you have to be perfect in every single way. Well, that sets you up for failure in a couple of ways. Number one, no one's perfect, right? And number two, your team sure as heck is not perfect either. And so you're either going to isolate yourself by saying, you know, that person's hard to work with, you don't want to be on their team. And that happens a lot in not only in dentistry, but in business in general, where the CEO isolates him or herself because no one can perform up to his or her level. But the ones that are more servant leader oriented, that say, you know what, I'm good at maybe one or two things and I suck at everything else. I'm going to build a team around me that can really take my weaknesses and opportunities and scale those up, because I'm not going to be the one to do that. So I think that's number one. But the other thing is, you can't build your vision in an ivory tower, right? You can't do it from the relaxation of your sofa. Like, you actually have to go in and get your teeth knocked out from time to time and try and test things. I mean, that's what SMC does best, right? Is you don't know what's going to work best for that particular new client. Yeah. You've got to A/B test the heck out of things. And even then, there's no finish line. And I think that's the big misnomer, is that there is this, once I get to this point, then I'm ready for SMC. Once I get to this point, then I'm ready to build my DSO. It's like, you're thinking about it the wrong way. It's like your number one commodity is time. That clock is ticking for all of us. So you better do it today if you want to get there. And you won't know if it's the right path or not, quite frankly, until you get on the field and play the game. Yeah. Have you ever? And you can't do it on the sidelines.
100%. And have you ever read the book, Simon Sinek's book around the Infinite Game?
Yes.
I think that kind of that really helped me frame some things about, you know, it's like, well, I want to be my goal is to be the best marketing company or the best, you know, a dental office. And it's like, okay, well, you're playing a game that has no rules. No one knows that they're competing in it. And you really don't even have a baseline to even tell if you win or lose. Right. And it's really boiling down, competing against yourself. And like you said, time. And then that this is going to keep going even after we're gone, right? So we're building something that someone else is going to carry on. And so I love that mindset, because it really does allow you to step in and to take some failures. And the other thing that I like about this mindset is you can get to the place where, instead of competing of, okay, well, I want to go to 1 million to 10 million or whatever it may be, which there's nothing wrong with those kind of goals. You can also start to get into the mindset of, I want to set people up for success. So my measure of success is, can I get 4 or 5 other leaders to lead beyond me? And this allows people to fail, allows people to try things. And it really, that mind shift, part of it, I've gotten some of that from the DEO, going to your guys' events and hearing the different speakers talk through that. And I know that you're a big component of that. Where are you at right now with the term emerging DSOs? What does that mean?
Really, that's a great question. No one has operationally defined it. We haven't come across a universally accepted lexicon, right? Of like, what is an emerging group? What is a DSO? I mean, really, DSO is just the management side of the parent company that doesn't own any of the clinical aspects, but all the business side of supporting that clinical entity, right? And so It's the management, it's the marketing, operations, etc. So could you have a DSO at one location? Yeah, you could. Could you have a DSO at 100 locations, at 1,000? Yes, you could. But by the inverse, you don't have to create one.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, is like, what is multi-location emerging group? And what is the percentage of ownership between the two? Well, when I came into the industry about 7 or 8 years ago, I mean, it was probably a 60% solo. It was more like an 80% solo to 85% solo, 15, 20% group. And I would count anyone as a group that had 2 or more locations by my operational definition. Now it's more like a 60-40 split. And so we're kind of where medical was in terms of consolidation in the 90s, if you remember that. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward to today, and you hardly see any MDs hang their own shingle. Yeah. So that being the case, I mean, I would venture to say it's still a minority, but a rapidly growing minority of ownership, where I can tell you even 4th-year dental students are calling into Jake and I saying, hey, how do I build the DSO? Before they even...
Right out of the box, right?
Right out of the box. How do I build this model? We actually have one of our DEO members that, believe it or not, got his first couple of LOIs signed before he graduated.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the only way you'll know if it's for you or not is if you actually try it. I know a lot of dentists that I talk to on a regular basis that have been doing this for 30, 40 years and regret not scaling up because they see the writing on the wall and they're worried about an exit strategy.
Yeah. What do you think, speaking of exit strategy, where do you see 10 years down the road? Where do you see dental? What is the landscape going to look like?
You know, we could have another black swan event like COVID.
Yeah.
So I'd be super ignorant to even forecast that far out. But what I would say is it's definitely moved away from that doctor-centric model to a patient-centric model. And whether things go the direction of, you look at the top 3 DSOs out there, right? 2 of the 3. Aspen has a med spa component to it. It's not just dental anymore.
Yeah.
Pacific Dental Services is using Epic, which is a dental platform in terms of practice management software. As Steve Thorne would say from Pacific Dental Services, mouth is part of the body. We treat them separately. It's kind of ridiculous. So I think you're going to have on demand, and I'll blame Amazon for this, for making all of us spoiled. I want it now. I want it yesterday. Give it to me before I even think about it. Mm-hmm. Healthcare is going to be very much the same way. I think you're seeing an uptick in people doing it themselves, the DIY model. And I think that appeals a lot to the younger generation that might not have the traditional 9-to-5 gig with traditional benefits. And so they might go for self-service options. And a lot of that could be related to their oral healthcare.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's aligners, whether it's, you know, using technology platforms to diagnose and then sending it in wherever they want to send it in to whoever can see them, almost like an Uber-based model. Mm-hmm. That's most likely the direction that we're going, where everyone is able to self-diagnose using technology and big data, like Alexa and Watson and everything else.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, no one human can out-diagnose that.
No.
Right? It's just impossible. There's 6 inches between our ears. You can only fit so much info. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably the future of healthcare in general. I know right now, I don't think anyone of us is super satisfied with the way things are going, which is why you and I work out religiously every week.
Yes, exactly.
But that's probably, it's going to be a very patient empowered platform, whether it's dental or any healthcare vertical.
Interesting. Yeah. I was talking to Santosh on a podcast that we just recorded, and he said one of the possibilities is where insurance will, and this is, he's guessing, right? That insurance, the dental insurance will get rolled up into the health insurance.
Potentially.
Yeah.
That's one option. You see a lot of writing on the wall where Medicaid, Medicare might potentially have on par reimbursement rates one day. Right? So everything's up for grabs right now. And I think at times we sometimes get lost in the shuffle because dentistry as an industry is still very small. You don't see a lot of folks IPOing, right? That was tried back in the 90s with Orthodontic Centers of America and Burner Dental and a couple of other groups, but it probably will happen in the near future. But it's been some time. We've got runway is what I'm saying. And if you want to be a solo and you don't want to scale, there's still that opportunity for you, but it's just going to be a race to the bottom, because how do you compete with the economies of scale of a group or a large DSO?
Yeah, 100%. So I know you guys have an event coming up. And so when this airs, it'll probably be about a week or two out. So tell the crowd about what you guys are doing. I know a lot of people have been there. I've seen your events. I've gone to them. You guys do an amazing job. So share a little bit about the November event and what you guys are doing and what people can expect from it.
Thank you. And I appreciate SMC being a part of it as well. So we have a summit that we hold in Orlando. It's November 11th through the 13th. Technically, the only thing happening on the 11th is a welcome reception at 7. Everything is held on property. It's at the JW Marriott in Grand Lakes, the one that's connected to the Ritz-Carlton. And so it's a beautiful property, but basically it's 2 full days on Friday and Saturday of having a ton of access to those that have been there and done that. So the theme is doubling dental. So doubling your top line revenue, doubling your profitability, doubling your patient flow. I mean, really what we aim to do is, this is the number one, I'll call it Super Bowl event, where you've got access to the highest number of decision maker emerging group practice owners compared to any other event that we know about.
Yeah.
There. And right now, last time I checked the roster or the attendee list, there were probably over 250 unique groups and DSOs.
Wow.
Which by far is larger than any other organization out there that produces events like this. Mm-hmm. And it's not just for DSOs. Let me be clear. You might see a 4th-year dental student.
Yep.
You might see, you're going to see a lot of solos. We don't just attract people from Florida, even though it's Orlando.
I know several. I've referred several groups,
yeah.
and they call themselves groups. They're not DSOs.
Yes. Yes.
But they're groups. But they, to our point earlier, you're crazy not to go learn from the mistakes of other people. It accelerates you by years and years and years as a dental organization being around these different groups.
Absolutely. And last time we did a live event, just due to COVID, was in 2019 in Orlando. It was sold out. This event, I guarantee you, it'll be sold out with the capacity requirements that we have. This is just something from an educational standpoint. Not only if you come live, you have the virtual option, because we have a lot of docs in Canada and internationally that just can't come to the States right now. It's prohibitive. So they're watching it virtually. Whether you come live or virtual, you're going to get a copy of everything. So you get a recorded copy anyway. So I would sign up even if I couldn't make it, just for that reason alone, because this information that you're going to get, it's not accessible at a traditional conference that you're used to going to. And as Gary will tell you, just the people you'll meet, the 1 or 2 nuggets that you'll get at the networking receptions, and that is actually actionable at the practice level the very next Monday, that to me, you just don't get that education anywhere else.
Yeah. You can't go Google this, right? A lot of times we just want to fix things and go Google it. The event that you guys did, that was a single theme of recruiting.
Yes.
I looked everywhere online. I've done all the research that I humanly could possibly do in dental. You guys covered it, and you brought in everybody that you needed to bring in to cover that topic. And so doubling dentistry is huge, and that's not just marketing. That's everything that you need to do to be able to double dentistry, which is market saturation, right? Dental still has a long way to go before everybody is using the dental services the way that they're supposed to. And I love the way that you guys think around that. Another thing, I'm just going to give a little plug. I'm going to put the link right below here for this event. If you put in SMC, Darren has been nice enough to give us $100 credit so that you get off your ticket. So put that in, sign up for this. You will not regret it. I'll go as far as say this. If you go to this event and you don't like it, reach out to me. I'll pay you back for your ticket. I guarantee you that you are going to get major, major, major value out of this event, and it will probably change the direction of your organization, instantly, with the information and the actionable items that you're going to be able to take there. So thanks for sharing that with us, Darren. Another thought I wanted to ask you. So we always ask everybody this because we're a marketing podcast, so always fascinated with everybody's answers. What's the most impactful marketing campaign that you've ever had on your life, something that lingers with you still today, that kind of changed the way that you buy or consume things?
It's going to be an awkward one for most, but everyone will remember it if you used to finger through magazines. The Absolute Vodka bottle campaign is, in my opinion, hands down the best campaign I've ever seen in my life. Because it was one that, now I don't drink Absolute Vodka, I'm more of a Tito's guy. But the reality is, taking something, such a simple concept, and always, I mean, I would literally see people cut out the ad and put it in their cubicles or put it on their wall. And they didn't always have to be marketing background folks. It's just, it really is art at the end of the day, right? You're just testing different things. And the things that are the stickiness are the ones that we still talk about. I can't remember the last time I physically saw an Absolute Vodka ad. It probably had to be 2 decades ago. But the reality is that stickiness still sticks with me today. I haven't seen another campaign that was print, because it's easy to say, oh, the Nike Just Do It, or X, Y, and Z, Apple, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
But something that was print, which I think direct mail is not dead, by the way. If you do it right, it can still resonate. I just don't see a lot of good examples of deliverables out there. But I mean, it is something that even before lifestyle, preceded lifestyle. And it was, to me, it was just timeless. I think 50 years from now, people will still remember it. If you go back into the archives, it was one of the coolest campaigns I've seen.
I off the top of my head, and I'm just like thinking back in what is he talking about? Which campaign? And now I remember, it was all the different colors. I was a little kid, so it was all the different colors. It was everywhere. It was on billboards.
Yeah.
I remember that one. So yeah, that's awesome. How can people find you if someone has questions? And here's something I really like about Darren. If you reach out to him and you have a question, I've reached out and I've been like, who does this in the dental industry? I need something like this. Darren will, hey, I got 7 people for you that can do that. Let me connect you with them. This is their strengths. This is what they can do good. So Darren is like a natural connector. He knows everybody. How can people reach out to you, connect with you? And what's an easy way for them to get in touch with you?
If you want to get in touch with me, LinkedIn is the best. That's the one platform I leaned into a long time ago. So I guarantee you I'm the only Darin Acopan on LinkedIn. Just shoot me a message. I'll respond, DEO member or not. I'm going to try to get you pointed in the right direction. And then if you actually want to schedule a call and learn more, just go to deodentalgroup.com, and there's a way to learn more and apply to learn more. And it's non-obligatory. I mean, we're kind of like the Harvard Business School of dental groups. Like, we're not a fit for most people, but even if you're not, I'm going to, like I said, do my best to point you in the right direction. And for those that we are a fit for, we'll talk about what that looks like. But again, coming to the summits, which, by the way, I'll say thank you to everyone that is coming to Orlando. We're looking forward to hosting you in about a month. Next year, we're not going to do another fall summit. We decided collectively that we're only going to do one Super Bowl event in June of 2022, and that's going to be in Phoenix at the Phoenician. So that's June 9th through the 11th. We already have it booked. But yeah, we're going from 2 summits traditionally to 1 intentionally, because we just have so much demand and so many things that we want to get accomplished. We didn't have the bandwidth to pull off.
Do you have the topic for June yet?
I have to keep it under wraps. I can share the date and the location, but it's how we do our events. It's going to be mind blowing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Darren, for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you guys are, and thank you for sharing with us. I can't wait to get this out to everybody.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate your time. You have a great week. Take care.
You too.